Now at 10, the community comes together to mourn the loss of Baxter Springs' mother and daughter killed during a standoff. Plus, how the local trucking industry is dealing with soaring gas prices.
Russian military pressure isn't slowing in Ukraine as diplomats consider another round of peace talks. I'm Skyler Henry at the White House with the efforts to downplay President Biden's unscripted remarks about President Putin.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
The 4 states community came together tonight to mourn the loss of a 2-year-old girl and her mother. 27-year-old Taylor Shute and her daughter Ceci Crawford were killed during a standoff in Baxter Springs Saturday evening between authorities and the child's father. KOAM Shannon Becker has more.
Yeah, thanks. The family invited the community to gather with them at the top of Mercy Park tonight for a community vigil to remember the mother and daughter. More than 100 people gathered to pray, listen to songs, cry, and lean on each other in this difficult time. Family says it meant a lot.
We weren't sure who all would show up, and that's fine as long as we had people here just covering us in prayer and strength, and the turnout just completely blew our minds. And it just means a lot that even if they didn't know Cleslin and Taylor, they still came out to show their support and love and prayers.
Services for the two who were killed on Saturday night in Baxter Springs have yet to be announced. The investigation has been handed over to the KBI. The family have created a GoFundMe to help with funeral expenses, and we have a link to that on our website at KOAM News Now. At the top of Mercy Park in Joplin, I'm Shannon Becker for KOAM News Now.
Authorities say the suspect in that standoff, 37-year-old Eli Crawford, also died. Checking in with Nick Kelly now for a first look at the weather.
We turned out to have a pretty good weather day, Dow. Temperatures started out rather cool this morning. In fact, we started near 42 in Joplin, maybe some upper 30s and a lot of lower 40s, but look at how fast we warmed up into the upper 60s and even some lower 70s this afternoon, 68 at Joplin Regional. We did that because of mostly sunny skies that we had all day long. The cloud cover held off throughout much of the day, but it's building out west and ready to head our way as our next warm front approaches for tomorrow. That's going to really warm us up before that cold front out west brings us our next best shot for storms that could pack a punch by this time tomorrow night. As far as where we sit right now, though, we have a couple upper 40s around the Beta and Stockton Lake, but most of us still in the mid to upper 50s to near 60 degrees. But with the southeast breeze still in place and picking back up throughout the course of the night, we're only going to drop back to about 53 across much of the area. And despite the cloud cover still passing through, we'll go into the mid to upper 70s for tomorrow, Dow, before storms are eager to get going. We'll break down what to expect for tomorrow night here in a few.
See you then. The cold weather rule is coming to an end this week in Kansas and Missouri. Starting Friday, April 1st, any residents who are behind on electric and natural gas utility bills could be subject to disconnection of service. The cold weather rule goes into effect in several states from November 1st through March 31st. It's designed to prevent utility shutoffs during the coldest parts of the year. Oklahoma's policy doesn't have a set time frame. In the Sooner State, utility companies cannot disconnect customers if temperatures are 32 degrees or below during the day, or 20 or below at night, or if the predicted heat index is 101 degrees or greater. Americans everywhere are feeling the pinch at the pump as fuel prices continue to rise. The trucking industry in particular is feeling the effects. The American Trucking Association says more than 70% of freight is transported via trucks, so high fuel costs can lead to higher prices elsewhere. Joplin-based CFI has nearly 4,000 trucks, so they found ways to lessen the burden of fuel costs.
Yeah, it definitely is impacting all consumers at this point in time. Being a large trucking company with nearly 3,700 trucks in our fleet today, we do feel the impacts. The good and the bad of it is we do have fuel surcharge programs in play to help offset those expenses.
Companies also buying 750 fuel-efficient tractors this year to lessen their carbon footprint and save on fuel. Trustees who oversee the Kansas Public Employee Retirement System voted to halt future investments in Russian assets because of that country's invasion of Ukraine. While some board members initially pushed for a full divestment Others said they would rather focus on the future and noted the fund's current holdings in the country have been largely liquidated anyway. Kansas has $36 million invested in Russian equities. They did as of February 25th. That accounts for about 0.14% of the pension fund's total investments. The Webb City R7 School District is asking voters to approve an $11 million school bond. The bond would fund improvements at the high school, including renovations of science classrooms, construction of a virtual learning lab, and a new family and consumer sciences classroom, and renovations of the Cardinal Theater. It would also fund the construction of an ADA-compliant outdoor space for PE classes at the middle school.
Okay, we have a larger group of kids coming through the pipeline up through our elementaries and high school, so we can see those populations coming through. We've already had to add 2 more classes for next year, social studies and science, so we can see these things coming up.
If approved, the district's current tax levy would stay the same. This bond will be decided next week on April 5th. Pittsburgh Community Child Care Learning Center is celebrating 50 years of educating kids. The center offers child care for kids between 1-year-old and kindergarten, and today they hosted an event for community members and former students and families to look back on all of the center's history. Officials say the center was the first child care center in Pittsburgh.
Exciting. I feel like that's a milestone to be the first child care center in Pittsburgh and to still be here and be going strong. We have a long waiting list, and so we're definitely needed, and the child care is definitely needed in the community.
The center is at 502 East 20th Street in Pittsburgh. Coming up, the UN says the number of refugees coming out of Ukraine has passed 4 million. Plus, why Walmart plans to stop selling cigarettes at some locations. President Biden today released his latest budget, which focuses on more military spending and funding police departments. The nearly $6 trillion budget proposal for fiscal year 2023 would come with more than $30 billion for community policing and law enforcement. It would also implement a corporate tax rate increase to 28% and a billionaire minimum income tax, which would require households making more than $100 million to pay 20% on their total annual income. An analysis estimates 57% of Americans didn't pay any federal income taxes last year. The study is from the Urban Brookings Tax Policy Center. The percentage of people who didn't pay taxes last year is higher than the 44% before the coronavirus pandemic. Government stimulus checks, expanded federal unemployment, and expanded child tax credits aided that higher number, but the report says it is temporary. The number of people who fled Ukraine is nearing 4 million. That's according to the UN Refugee Agency. The most intense fighting is now happening in eastern Ukraine, where Russia is concentrating its efforts and may be focused on trying to split off part of that country. And President Biden says he's not making any apologies for an unscripted comment he made about Russian President Putin this weekend. Reporter Skylar Henry has the latest.
Ukrainians in the southern city of Kherson took to the streets to protest the Russian invasion and occupation, as explosions could be heard in the distance. Pentagon officials believe Russia has launched nearly 1,400 missiles into Ukraine, but isn't furthering its advance on the capital city, Kyiv. The Kremlin says ceasefire negotiations will resume Tuesday. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's ready for a compromise in the eastern Donbas region, which has been partially controlled by Russia-backed separatists since 2014. Here in Washington, President Biden said he's not walking back his unscripted comment that said Russian President Vladimir Putin cannot remain in power, but says he's not calling for regime change.
I want to make it clear, I wasn't then, nor am I now, articulating a policy change. I was expressing the moral outrage that I feel, and I make no apologies for it.
The president added the last thing he wants the U.S. to do is engage in a land or nuclear war with Russia.
People like this shouldn't be ruling countries, but they do. The fact they do, but doesn't mean I can't express my outrage about it.
Idaho Senator Jim Risch, the ranking Republican member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, called President Biden's comment a, quote, horrendous gaffe. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
The Kremlin said it's not up to President Biden or any American to decide who will run Russia, saying that's up to the voters in Russia to decide. Walmart plans to stop selling tobacco products at some of its stores in the U.S. The spokesperson for the world's largest retailer says it made the decision after looking into tobacco sales. Walmart did not say how many stores will stop stocking the products. According to the Wall Street Journal, the company is removing cigarettes from stores in various markets, including some locations in Arkansas, California, Florida, and New Mexico. Drinking coffee may do your ticker good. Researchers found having 2 or 3 cups of coffee per day appears to lower a person's chance of falling victim to heart disease and heart failure. The findings were based on data from UK Biobank, which included information on more than 500,000 people during a 10-year period. Researchers say they're not sure if caffeine is the main factor for the apparent health benefits, saying there are numerous other compounds in coffee that could play a role. A little bit later, a local women's shelter hosts an online fundraiser to support the women in their care.
Plus, we're quiet tonight. We're warm tomorrow, but tomorrow night, strong to severe storms that we'll keep an eye on. Forecast next. It was nice that we kept things quiet to kick off a new work week, and for the kiddos, sorry you had to come back to school after spring break, but you were given a nice day at the very least with still quiet skies outside from Indigo Sky outside of Seneca, Missouri. That's what allowed temperatures throughout the entire day to go from the lower 40s this morning and into the upper 60s and lower 70s for some. And that's certainly a lot better than the upper 50s to near 60 that we had to wrap up yesterday and the past weekend with. As far as what we sit right now, though, 7th and range line, we're still looking good. Quiet skies up top, 57 to Job with an east breeze at 15. Gusts trying to pick back up, sitting at 23 miles per hour. And that's pretty much the same case for the entire region. It's keeping many of us still mainly in the 50s to about the lower 60s, certainly as we work toward Independence, Welsh, Newada, Veneta, and down toward Grand Lake. And as long as this east and eventually southeast breeze stays in place, then picking up a bit throughout the overnight, we'll only drop back into a good number of us in the 50s this time around, so not quite as cool as we get your Tuesday morning started. We kept skies mostly sunny all day long, mostly clear skies for much of this evening, but you can certainly see the clouds building and eager to work back in as we go throughout the course of the night. That's in response to a warm front that will come on through first. Doesn't do anything in terms of threatening weather during the day tomorrow, but this will make sure we go into the 70s for highs. But the cold front coming out of the western U.S. and the upper level low to go along with it, those will be the 2 features that will really ramp up our thunderstorm chances and even a severe threat. Granted, it's a low severe threat covering much of the area until you hit about Missouri 39 in our far eastern part of the viewing area. 9 o'clock Tuesday night until 5 a.m. Wednesday morning. That is when we'll focus on these thunderstorms because that will be the best shot for them to bring a threat for high wind, heavy rain, maybe some large hail. We're keeping the tornado threat pretty low, but that risk is there considering how these storms might want to set up and pass on through. Let's break that down for you now. Even though the cloud cover picks up throughout the course of the night, we have a layer of warm air aloft that will hold in place not just during the morning, but throughout much of the day. That warm air aloft means the clouds won't give way to any rain or storm, so we'll keep dry during much of the day. And that south wind is going to really warm us up. 53 in the morning, 68 by noon, and the high is 76. That's just around Joplin, but I would imagine the area south and west of Joplin, you'll go into the upper 70s, maybe the stray spot near 80. That can certainly be possible. Before we hit 9 o'clock Tuesday night, we see the scattered storms popping up. That certainly could be strong to severe as they get going. But notice how these storms work into the area by midnight and throughout early Wednesday morning. This is going to be mainly a line with mainly wind being the big threat here, but within a couple spots of the line, we can't rule out some spin-up tornadoes, and then we're going to have to deal with continued rain chances throughout Wednesday. That could certainly add up between, let's say, ½ an inch on the low end to almost 2 inches. So if we don't see a lot of severe weather somehow, we're going to get quite a bit of rain out of this system. Not to mention the drop in temperatures on Wednesday. 76 for tomorrow, 68 early morning highs down. Then we'll drop into the 40s throughout the day on Wednesday. Minor rain chances Thursday and even into Friday and Saturday, but the bulk of this weekend is looking dry.
In the meantime, it might be pretty soggy before then.
Certainly for tomorrow night and Wednesday for sure.
Thanks, Nick. Safe House Crisis Center in Pittsburgh is hosting their 11th annual Bags to Riches online fundraiser. There are several items up for auction, including purses, jewelry, signed Chiefs memorabilia. The center also has pictures of local dogs on their website, and you can vote for your favorite. All the proceeds from the fundraiser will support the women in the shelter.
This community supporting our fundraising efforts, but they're also supporting our agency, and they're also really supporting the victims we're serving.
The auction started today and runs through April 5th. You can find a link to the auction on our website, koamnewsnow.com. Still ahead, the Kansas Jayhawks are headed to the Final Four for the first time since 2018. And the Frontenac baseball team hits the road to Nevada, Missouri for their first game of the season. Jacob Leonard has that and more up next.
Well, tonight is opening night for Frontenac High School baseball. The Raiders are on the road for an interstate matchup to start their schedule, facing the Nevada Tigers. The Frontenac coming off a regional championship and a third-place finish at state last season. We're scoreless until the top of the fifth. Logan Myers rips it into right center. Scores Lane Sullivan. Myers drives in 2 tonight. They really did their damage in the sixth, though. Colin McCartney up, finds the gap in left center, all the way to the fence. Scores Mario Mangini and Jeremy Rayo. It's now 3-0 Raiders. A few minutes later, Lane Sullivan turns, pulls it into the left field corner. RBI double scores Cal Turlip. Makes it 4-0. Mario Mangini also had a 2-run double in the sixth. Raiders would score 7 in the inning. They win their season opener over Nevada 8-1.
For the first time out, there was a lot of good things that we'll take from it. I feel like we beat a good ball club tonight, and our bats came alive a little bit. We played good defense behind our pitchers. I thought our pitchers threw well. They competed. They were in the zone. There's some things we got to clean up, and you always find those things after game one. And one of the things is backwards Ks. I mean, we got to give ourselves a chance. We've got some good hitters, and we got to give ourselves a chance. We've got 2 strikes on us.
Staying in Southeast Kansas, it's opening day for Galena at home against the Independence Bulldogs. Now, Indy strikes first. Ryan Leiker hammers it to center. Nice effort out there, but it gets by. Davis Merrick scores. Independence gets 2 in the top of the first. The bottom half, leadoff man Brett Sarwinski going opposite field with 2 strikes. Double for Sarwinski. He would score a few minutes later on a passed ball. It's 2-2 after 1. Then both pitchers making plays. Kenyon Martin, nice move here, throws to Sarwinski to pick the runner off at second. Bottom half, Ryan Leiker on the mound for Independence, strikes out the side. He goes 3 1/3 with 10 strikeouts. Indy gets 5 in the 5th and 5 in the 7th, rolling by Galena 13-5. The Kansas Jayhawks are back in the Final Four in the NCAA tournament. The Jayhawks beat Miami last night in the Elite Eight to return to the national semifinals for the first time since 2018. They got off to a little bit of a slow start last night. They were down 35-29 at halftime. Second half, though, it was all Jayhawks. KU outscored Miami 47-15 in the final 20 minutes, winning 76-50. They had 3 guys in double figures, led by Ochai Agbaji, who scored 18. And here's KU head coach Bill Self on the team's momentum heading into the Final Four.
One thing that has given us a little confidence is, I mean, we had a pretty good team this year, and we shared the league and then won the tournament, and we kind of shared the league without having the opportunity to play Remy, and so I think Remy and his core always knew what he was capable to do to help us. But we haven't really seen it yet because health hasn't allowed it. And I think that our guys have more of a swagger now, knowing what Remy can do to make us better.
Albert Pujols is coming back to St. Louis. The Sunday night, the 42-year-old Pujols agreed to a 1-year, $2.5 million deal with the Cardinals. Now, Pujols previously played for the Cardinals from 2001 to 2011. In those 11 seasons, he hit 445 of his 679 career home runs, helped the team win 2 World Series titles. He spent most of the last 10 years with the Angels before being released and signed by the Dodgers in the middle of last season. Pujols is a 10-time All-Star and a 3-time league MVP. Pujols already with the team for their spring training game today against the Houston Astros. And then the first, Michael Brantley, solo shot off Adam Wainwright. It's 1-0 Astros. Wainwright settles in after that. Strikeout here. Wainwright, 5 innings, gives up 2 runs, 3 strikeouts. But in the fourth, Jordan Alvarez, solo homer of his own. Not a lot of offense today, but the Astros win it 2-1. Plenty of offense in this one. Kansas City facing Cleveland in spring training action today. Royals win 19-9. Andrew Benintendi, huge day. 2 home runs, 5 RBIs. The Royals now 6-3 in spring training. And that's it for sports. We're back after this.
Take time now to honor a local veteran. David Blakesley joined the U.S. Navy in 2011. The Chanute, Kansas native was stationed near Pakistan, and we salute cryptologic technician 2nd Class David Blakesley, a 4-state hero. Maybe time to look through the attic for all those old Pokemon trading cards. A rare 1999 Pokemon First Edition Charizard card just went for $420,000 at auction. According to the PWCC auction house, the sale sets an all-time record for a base set Charizard card. What made the card so valuable was its perfect PSA Gem Mint rating. Only 121 cards have that designation out of the thousands sold over the past 25 years. $400,000 plus.
That's not surprising considering how big Pokemon cards were back then and still today.
They still are, you bet. I know some collectors myself. The weather, rain in the days ahead.
Well, we're going to hold off on that until tomorrow night. So throughout much of the night and the day tomorrow, we'll keep things dry, warm too, with highs near 76. But tomorrow night, Wednesday morning, that's when we'll watch for strong to severe storm chances.
Final sports notes.
Albert Pujols is back with the Cardinals, but he says this is going to be his last ride. He plans to retire after the 2022 season.
Still, I didn't think he'd come back, but it's a big deal for the
It's
Cards.
a cool story for sure. Hopefully he gets out there and does something for him.
DH in the National League now. Thanks for joining us this morning show, 5 a.m. Let's make it a great tomorrow.